Right. Coming up out of the next break, folks, we have New York Times best-selling author Curtis Sittenfeld. I think it will be a very fun interview. Lovebirds, this is our relationships episode of Talk of the Town on 1230, The Buzz of Cincinnati.
.1230 The Buzz, your talk station.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town with PG Sittenfeld. Tamaya, I think I've learned a little something about relationships just in this short half hour. The good news for those of you listening at home, we still have half the show to go. Before we introduce our next guest, I do want to bring a very important event that really Tamaya Denard has been the driver and force behind, coming up on August 25th. Folks, get out a pencil, get out a pen, and write this down. On August 25th, the inaugural Let's Move Cincinnati event. This is a chapter of First Lady Michelle Obama's initiative to get more people moving and active and healthy. Down at Smale Riverfront Park, which is on East Meering Way, right at the banks, we will have the event starting at 8:30 that goes till noon, Saturday, August 25th. There'll be yoga, salsa dancing, Zumba, fitness camps, soccer youth clinics. It is free for absolutely everybody. You can register at Let's Move Cincy. Let'sMoveCincy.eventbrite.com, or you can also call my City Hall office, 352-5270. It should be a great event, and what is more important than getting out there and shaking a leg a little bit? Now, as I said, we are now delighted to have a very special guest joining us, who is the New York Times best-selling author of books such as Prep, The Man of My Dreams, and American Wife, though I think her most important title is loving older sister to PG Sittenfeld. Curtis Sittenfeld, welcome to the show.
Thank you, PG. I'm delighted to join you.
I know her tone well enough to know that medium delighted. But Curtis, let me ask you this. In addition to being my loving older sister and a great older sister, you've been a very successful author, and a lot of what you've done has been imagining some very interesting relationship dynamics in your novels. So you imagine an insecure high school girl who had a huge crush on the captain of the varsity basketball team in Prep. You've also imagined the relationship between a first lady and the president of the United States, who anyone who's read American Wife knows very much resembled George and Laura Bush. So how do you go about imagining what these relationships are like and then bringing them to life?
Well, I mean, I think that in some ways I become a fiction writer because I have the ability to imagine the world from someone else's perspective, or because I enjoy doing that more than I decide to write a novel and then I try to imagine it. You know, I do think that in some ways it's almost to a fault that I don't know if you personally will feel like this given the fights that we've had over the years, but I think that I can always imagine something from someone else's point of view. So even when someone's angry at me...
Then why are you so unsympathetic in our fights, sister? I have to ask.
Well,
if that really is the case.
I have to be tough with you. But I think there have been times when I'll think, like if someone's mad at me, I'll think, well, I understand what their view is, but I don't think they understand what my view is, and so therefore it's almost like their view might as well be the truth. But I just think, people, of course, at the same time, people are more alike than not alike. So it's not, I don't think that like a 70-year-old man is in all ways totally different from a 12-year-old girl. People often want the same things or variations on the same things, no matter their age or their circumstances.
Well, and I think as a testament to your ability to sort of get inside other people's brains, you've not been a sort of secret in your public life that you are a staunch Democrat and certainly have more progressive values, but you were able to bring forward a very lively and I think, pretty sort of sympathetic and human version of George W. Bush in one of your books. So obviously, your real life values pretty far apart, but you still brought him to life as a human being.
Well, again, people are very complicated, so I always felt when I was writing American Wife, I definitely didn't vote for George W. Bush. I thought that he was essentially a terrible president, but I think that if he were my friend's uncle and I was seated next to him at a wedding, I do think that he would be sort of funny and goofy. And again, I think there are some people who think, oh my God, but he did so many terrible things. How can you separate what he would be like to chat with one-on-one and his presidency. And so maybe it's a failing on my part that I can separate those two things.
Well, and Curtis Sittenfeld, I do have to say, I think the likelihood of you sitting next to George W. Bush at a wedding is somewhat a long shot at this point. But
if it wasn't before, it certainly is now.
Best of luck in that endeavor. So do you sort of study the relationships of the people you know, or what is it that you're looking for? And I guess also, would you say that, the fictional couples who you bring to life in your books that are read very widely and on many countries, do they always resemble a couple that you know in real life?
Okay, you're asking me like 5 questions at once. I wouldn't. I'm
the
regular radio interview. You are my brother. That is about 5.
So I'm the smart Sittenfeld is the only thing I wanted to prove there. But we'll break this. So I guess starting with the first question. I mean, would you say you actively study the relationships of the people around you?
No, I mean not you. I mean I am a pretty enthusiastic eavesdropper, but I actually think that a lot of times people, human nature is very strange and very interesting, and in some ways I think that it makes me compassionate for other people that, we so often act against our own best interest, or it's very clear to look at someone else and see what they're doing wrong in their life, but then sometimes it's very hard to recognize that in your own life or to take action on it. But I feel like a lot of times the exact thing that people want to conceal from you or the thing that people are uncomfortable about, they sort of announce about themselves. And I don't think that most people are incredibly mysterious, although another thing as a novelist that I find interesting is the discrepancy between people's public selves and private selves, and that's something I think because you never know that, you have to imagine it. And so it's sort of like, since I wrote American Wife, I once in a huge auditorium heard Laura Bush speak, but I never would find myself in a room alone with George and Laura Bush, so it's almost like only fiction could take me there. Like to think, well, okay, she started as a Democrat. She seems really different from him in temperament. She has, spoken about having some different views from him, and so it's almost like you never know, but you do wonder, and you can think that of almost any people or couple like what are they really like behind closed doors? Are they the way they seem? Are they the opposite of the way they seem?
And I'll say that I'm happy to know the public Curtis Sittenfeld. I don't necessarily want to go inside your head, Curtis, to be.
I think you know the private.
No, I do.
I feel like if you've seen me, if most of the time that you've encountered me, I've been wearing sweatpants, then I think you know.
Only 90% of the time. No, you wear sweatpants well. Let me ask you this. So you've been able to bring rich, complicated relationships to life in your books very well. So you may or may not say this question is above your pay grade, but do you have advice to young men or young women who are out there looking to meet the right person?
God, PG. I mean, first of all, you are, as your listeners may or may not know, you are 9 years younger than I am. You're my baby brother. And I feel like I was in my mid-20s trying to get advice from you about boys and dating when you were like 15 years old. No one is less qualified to give relationship advice than I. Well, maybe you're less qualified.
I was going to say, I think there's somebody who's
let me ask you, how did my 13-year-old self advise you? Did I have good romantic advice then?
Well, I don't know if I should quote you on this. You did. I remember
probably
at one point,
not. Is my thought.
There was a guy I was interested in who I think was basically like 100% not interested in me, and you were saying like, men are dogs. Men are dogs. You just have to understand that, Curtis. Men are dogs.
No, I would never have said that. I would never have said that.
Really? I must be thinking of my different brother.
I think as your other brother, I think what I probably would have said is, that you're a strong woman and you need to look out for yourself and take care of yourself. So let me ask you about something.
Oh, yes. No, I do. I mean, I think you did give me good advice, and yeah. Anyway.
Well, moving on. Let me ask you this: something you do know about more personally. How does having kids change a person's relationship with their spouse? Obviously, for a while it's you and the other person, and things are running along, and then suddenly the family grows. How's that change the relationship dynamics?
Well, okay, so I have, I now have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So this is, in some ways, a person who is maybe has children who are adults and not, out of the house might be more qualified to answer this. But when you have young children, obviously it totally, in all ways, turns your life upside down. And, I think that, I guess you have to, it's challenging. It's like really fun to live with little kids. It's challenging. I think that you have to have good communication skills in place, or you have to sort of, I think, you're not necessarily going to be like doing the most fun things in your relationship once you have little children, and you're not going to, a lot of it is for their sake. So I think that the hope would be that you have a solid relationship in place before that, and that you enjoy each other's company, and that I think especially if you both find it funny to talk about things having to do with diapers and going to the bathroom, then you'll have a lot to talk about.
Well, better you can have those conversations with your husband rather than on Talk of the Town. Let us turn for a moment. This is the relationships episode, but we also want to talk a little bit of politics. You have written articles for places like Time Magazine and Slate, basically saying you have a huge amount of admiration for President Obama and First Lady Obama, and that you're also part of admiring them. You really admire the relationship that they have with each other. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think I'm not alone. I mean, supposedly, I even read somewhere that the Obamas, sort of have this ongoing discussion with each other about how much to let the public be privy to their relationship, because supposedly Democrats like me and their supporters just like eat up every detail. Like if I hear, Barack Obama took Michelle on a date night to the theater, it's like I want to know what they were wearing and what they ate and what they saw, and so I mean I think they're just, I do have a lot of admiration for them. At the level of things like policy, but then of course I also think like, what shoes was Michelle wearing? And I just think they seem like very cool, and sort of getting back to what you were asking about earlier, I think that they seem like real role models as parents. I mean, it seems like they're strict and they impose limits about things like TV and socializing and bedtimes, but that they're also very, loving and supportive. And yeah, I totally am, I can't say enough good things about both Obamas. And to me, it's almost less weird that I think that there are some people who think like, Obama didn't turn out to be exactly the kind of president I want, but I admire him as a husband or father. But I think it's strange that as many, self-proclaimed Democrats are as critical of him as they are. I think there's so much that's so, awesome about Obama, and it's, I don't know, the possibility of him not being reelected is just unthinkable to me.
Well, Curtis Sittenfeld, we appreciate you taking time out of your surprisingly unexciting life to be a guest on Talk of the Town, and I will.
Curtis, let me say hi really fast because PG hogged all the time with Connie Schultz. So, how are you?
How uncharacteristic of him.
I know, right? So I just want to say hello. Get a word in edgewise.
I know. Hey, how are
you? The ladies can bond off air. Curtis, see you at Thanksgiving or Christmas or something like that. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Touch.
We will talk to you later.
Bye.
Innovator, we will try and get to your call coming out of this next break. We presume you have profound relationship thoughts or questions to ask. You're listening to Talk of the Town with PG Sittenfeld on 1230, The Buzz of Cincinnati.
Yeah, let's get it started.